Hello once again. Welcome to J Lowe Artist YouTube channel. This channel is designed for the beginning artist, for someone who wants to increase some of their skills, or even for an established artist who wants to find some different techniques and different ways of doing things. Today we're going to be working with color. We're going to be trying some metallic objects done in a very designed and basic way. I think the more you draw with metal and metal looks, the more you're going to understand light and color and the surfaces that reflect that light. Let's get started. So once you get water in there, you want to just set it aside. I'm going to talk to you for a minute just about metal and surfaces. So when we're talking about metal and metal surfaces, highly reflective surfaces, it's like a mirror. Anything that's around it is going to reflect into it. Remember, one of the rules of value is that the shape of the values reveals the shape of the form. So if your form is rounded, all your shadows and all your lights have to be rounded as well. So if you think about metal, there's the sky, there's your horizon line, your light source, and usually your horizon line is going to be a little bit lighter than everything else, the center of your thing. And then you've got the earth or the ground or whatever is there below it. This is the metal bean in Chicago. And you can see that happening. You've got the ground or the earth below it. You've got your horizon. That's where your core shadow is going to be. And then your highlight with the sky up above. And if you do these kinds of colors, blues and purples on the top and your warmer colors on the bottom, it'll give it a little more realism, if you will. If your object is cylindrical, then your shadows are going to follow the cylinder. It's going to follow the direction that your cylinder goes. So you've got your core shadow in the center, your highlight on one side. So it's basically the same thing. Even if your object is varied, you're going to have that same kinds of things throughout the shapes of those objects. And even if it's turned a little bit more, it's still going to have that idea with the core shadow, the light on one side, the ground on the other. Okay, it's just turned. It goes with your object. Some of my favorite objects, like armor, same kind of a thing. Find out where your shine is, how your object is. You've got the earth below, the sky above. And it works with just about everything. Here's a motorcycle. Same kind of thing, okay? This is very complex, but it's the same principle. We're going to go ahead and we're going to try this. And my wife says we have to do a Christmas object. So I was thinking of a Christmas ornament. You betcha. Let's go ahead and make a little circle. Draw a little circle, draw a little ornament. About the size of a golf ball or maybe a little bit larger. And if you wanted to, you could put your little, there's a little metal piece that fits into that glass. If you wanted to. A little ring. If you want to. But the important thing is, because this is round, our core shadow has to be round. If you're looking up into it, it's going to round out this way. If you're looking down on it, it's going to round out this way. So we'll have it so we're looking slightly down on it. And so I'm just going to put in this little core shadow that kind of goes this way. Right below that, it's going to be dark. Above that, it's going to be light. And it doesn't have to be totally even either. It can be, you can have some variation to it. Totally up to you. So it's going to be dark here. It's going to be light above here. And we can make this ornament any color we want to. Remember that watercolors is a natural fixative. And so if you don't want to see your pencil, you may want to get rid of it, or as much as you can. And as we've been talking, our paint has been mixing. So I'm going to go ahead and just start painting this. And remember, this area here has to be white. This area has to be dark. But we can't start with the darks. We're going to start out with some light areas, light things.
So I'm going to start out with some orange. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just paint some water across there. This is just nice, clean water. And I might want to put some on the bottom. All that's going to do is it's going to help my colors to kind of go fuzzy. I don't want a hard edge. I want it to kind of blend a little bit, to soften, if you will. So I'm going to take orange, because orange is a little warmer. I'm going to start out with orange, but then I'm going to add red on top of it. So as I go this way, notice how it kind of starts to bleed a little bit. I kind of want it to bleed. Start out with my ribs, my edges. Then I'm going to bring it down into it. I'm going to come up with it. Could even go right to that little line that we made. On the top, remember, this has got to stay white. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use water from here on out, and just take and bring some of this down into that area, just a little bit. And it's just water. I want to dry off my brush and just use water. Just to touch that, just to soften those edges. I want to leave that little spot of light, that little spot of white there. And I often touch my brush to my blotter there, my paper towel. And you only use a tiny, tiny bit of paint. You don't use much at all. Now I'm going to go into the red. I'm going to bring some of that red back out. I've got that warm tone down in here from the orange. So now I'm going to grab the red. You don't have to do red everywhere. So I'm just going to start this red here. And then I'm going to let that sit, and watch your edges. They're going to go fuzzy. If they don't go fuzzy, we'll just touch that with a little bit of water, and it'll fuzz out for you. Okay, is it fuzzing out for you? If not, just touch it with a little bit of water. Let it fuzz out for you. You want it to get soft and fuzzy there on that edge. Now, I want to avoid using black, even though black is very dark and sometimes you need it, but I'm going to avoid that a little bit. I'm going to use purple. And I'm just going to take just a tiny bit of purple. I've just got a tiny, tiny bit of purple on my brush. I'm going to hit that core. And if it fuzzes out a little bit, that's okay. Let that kind of come down and fuzz out a little bit. I need it to go a little darker, so I'm going to do it again. I'm going to just keep doing that until it's as dark as I want it to go. Because I just hit it with water, it should fuzz out a little bit. It should stay fairly dark right up next to the light, but as it comes down, it should fuzz out. You don't have to brush it smooth. It will smooth out on its own. I'm going to add a little bit more red to that. Maybe even bring some of that red down. Maybe a little on the other side. Now our topper, I'm going to let this dry for a minute. Our topper needs to be silver. And so I'm going to use blues and purples there. I'm going to start out with purple since I already had purple on my brush. And just do a little bit down the side, maybe a little stripe there. Maybe a little bit of blue while it's still just slightly wet. I'm hoping that that's going to blend just a little bit. So whenever you want something to look silver, you're going to use cool colors like blues and purples. When you want something to look gold, you're going to use warm colors like oranges and yellows. Where this little shine is, I'm going to just touch it with some water. So I'm just going to get just a tiny bit of water on my brush and just touch it. There we go. That's enough. Just give it a little soft touch there. I want this bottom part maybe to be a little warmer or a little. So I'm just going to add maybe a little yellow to that. It'll pick up the other colors that are with it. That'll warm that up just a little bit of yellow. Maybe a little more red, just here and there. I've left a little edge there for reflected light. And you can blend this too a little bit if you wanted to. So I might want to take some more of that yellow right up in here. Dry your brush off, get rid of all your pigment, and then just touch it with the water and bring some of that water down into it, just to soften that edge. So all I'm doing is this is just water, and it's not very much. It's just ever so lightly. That'll soften that edge. Now, let's say we want to put in a little reflected light. Maybe down in here, put a little reflected light in. All you got to do is get it wet. This is just water. I'm just going to sit it on there. Let it sit for a second. Let it sit right there. Then I'm just going to take my paper towel and I'm going to touch it. And voila, there's a little reflected light down in there. And you can take out more if you want to. You just get it wet and you do that again. There's a little reflected light down in there. And you can even do that up to the side. Let's say right up in here. I'm just going to take my nice brush, put a little water right there. Let it sit for a second. And then just touch it with my paper towel. And there's a little reflected light. You can put that wherever you want it. Now, if you want the edges and everything to pop a little bit, you can use your Pigma Micron and just go in and touch some of those edges a little bit. So if I go back in with my Pigma Micron, I can add some detail to this. On my edges. And let's say you want some of those little edges maybe to pop a little bit. I can even take my ink and come into it and just ink it in. Just make it pop a little bit more. A little line here. Little line there. I can do the same thing with my little globe too. I can just ink around the side. You don't have to go over the whole thing. But that just sharpens your edges a little bit. Once it's a little drier, that's pretty dry. Once it's a little drier, you can go back in with some other color, some purple, maybe a little bit of brown. If I mix my brown and my purple together, I'll get a nice dark tone. I may want to have some of that dark tone right in the center. Get rid of any color, and then just some light water, just a little bit on your brush, and you can blend that. Just a little bit. Just the edges. All you want is just a little bit on the edges, just to soften them. I have no idea what's around this orb, but just a little bit, that kind of makes it look shiny. You can use this on just about anything that is metallic or high reflective qualities, high glass. If you like cars, this works for like bumpers and all sorts of things. Well, I hope you've had fun today and learned something. This is just a fun technique that can help in all sorts of places, all sorts of things. And I hope somehow make your life a little bit nicer, a little better. Art can make life better. I hope you have a lovely day.